Okay, welcome to Hauser. June 14th, 2012. My guests tonight are Dana Ward and Brandon Brown. And we have been spending time together. And so would you guys like to read some of the texts that you brought? Would you like to start by doing that, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Read some of these books. So Brandon brought a few books that
Yeah,
both
is there
he and I
something-
really he and I really love, and so maybe we'll start by reading some poems.
I would love to read a poem.
Read a
yeah.
poem we each like.
Okay.
But is there,
Yeah.
is there one of these books you'd like to pick out?
Can I read from Action Kylie?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I know I'm taking the heart from your pocket. But
No,
can I
that's
borrow
right.
it?
No,
Yeah.
of course. There's a poem I'd love to read. It's by the poet David Larson, who was a Bay Area poet, now lives in New York. And it's from his book that came out in 2006 called The Thorn, which is a book that, I don't know what you think about this, Dana. I mean, for me, when that book came out, it was life-changing. I mean, it was
Absolutely.
frightening, because I think the poetry I was writing at the time was so engaged with what Larson was doing effectually and tonally, that the book it really upset my entire writing practice. It really upset everything in the most beautiful way.
Was it kind of like back to square one, kind of like now what do I do?
A little bit, actually, a little bit. I mean, it was a little bit. It was also like one of the most liberating and liberatory works that I had ever encountered in art. So that I thought my poetry can do anything, and what a special feeling that is to say something kind of coarse and stupid.
No, no.
You know. But anyway, this poem is from the book The Thorn. I think it's untitled. You know what? Fuck everyone except me. A Dante figure. Fuck that other shit. Do you even know what it is?
Should we answer the phone?
I think we should answer the phone and I'll just restart.
What about fuck everyone with me?
Hello, you're on Hauser.
Hi, this is John Coletti.
Oh,
Yeah.
hello, John. How are you?
Am I on tape?
You're being recorded on a reel-to-reel recorder as we speak.
Oh, beautiful. Miami 80, Oklahoma City 69.
You think Miami's got this one?
Yeah, I think it's pretty locked in, unfortunately.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Brandon and Dana?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Miami's
Oh,
gonna
you
win.
guys can't hear it.
John was saying that he thinks Miami's going to win.
Right. I mean, I hope
Yeah.
they don't. And that's because I love and this is actually really this is really tied up with the Larson book. It's astonishing when weak, malnourished, underprivileged people defeat giants and heroes. And for that reason, I think, or at least I hope, that Oklahoma City is going to make LeBron cry tonight.
Yeah. I know Chris Bosh disagrees. He just dunked it.
You think the Oklahoma City Thunder are weak and malnourished?
It's all
I
relevant.
know there's no
Comparatively.
defense on this. Wait, was I getting involved in this conversation while you were talking about Miami Darbouche?
Hi, John.
John, is there anything you want to say to Brandon and Dana?
It's like, how was their drive? Did they drive or did they take a train?
We drove.
Talk about your travels that brought you to Milwaukee.
Yeah, so I drove from Cincinnati, and we rendezvoused in Chicago yesterday.
That's right.
Yeah. And we met at a Starbucks, which is significant because I think that of all the places that I'm interested in going to, and I think your writing addresses this in a way that's really important to me, that the place I like to go most is to go to a Starbucks. Like when you go to, like, say, Manhattan.
Well, no, I mean, we have dwelled together in the best Starbucks that ever
The
has
Starbucks
been.
in Gramercy
That's right.
is
And
the most iconic and important place in Manhattan. So when people talk about other things in Manhattan, when they talk about museums, when they talk about the Statue of Liberty, when they talk about all these things,
Ellis Island.
what really matters is this Starbucks in Gramercy. And I get tired of people's what I take to be a kind of snobbery and a kind of a refusal of the truth. And the truth of Manhattan, to me, is expressed in this Gramercy and Starbucks. I think.
No, absolutely. It's on 23rd and 3rd, and I recommend any listeners who
There's
live in New York.
really good Dwayne Reed right next to it.
A beautiful Dwayne Reed.
Yeah.
And for any listeners tuning in from New York, please visit the Starbucks. For one thing, the staff
people that work there are so
are
fucking nice.
they are wonderful. And last time I was there in March,
Did you go in March?
I went in March several
I
times.
didn't go. I didn't go the last year I was there. I didn't get up there.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You know, they were playing Bills by Destination Rock, and they were all singing
were they
along.
really?
The staff was all singing along, and it was
Were they really?
it was. I mean, it
Oh,
was
I've heard
truly.
those people.
I levitated.
What just happened, John? What just happened?
Kevin Durant just hit a 3-point, brought it to 10 points, 8 minutes and 40 on the board.
Yeah. So can
Durant
John?
just hit a
Can John
three-pointer.
hear me?
Can you hear Dana, John?
No, but it doesn't matter.
That's too bad.
That hurts my feelings, but that's fine.
I mean, no, it totally matters. I can hear him less audibly as Mike and Brandon. Oh, oof.
Can you hear him at all?
It's coming back, man. It's 8 points. I'm just going to do the play-by-play on this shit. Yeah. Yeah, did they listen to Robin on the way?
No. We actually ended up just talking en route from Chicago to Milwaukee. Even though we had a
really?
plan to
No,
listen to
Robin.
jams the whole time. We
Okay.
never executed the plan. We got a gas station coffee.
I got like a
in Racine.
Starbucks.
We went to Racine.
I got like a
We stopped off in
Starbucks.
Racine in honor of
I can hear Dana. I can hear
Cold
Dana now.
frappuccino.
That's-
and Nick. In honor of
Okay,
Nick Dempsey,
great.
we stopped off in Racine. And Brandon got a cold, prepackaged Starbucks coffee in a thing of Blue Diamond almonds, and I got a
Whoa.
hot coffee from the gas station and a nice peppermint patty, one of the Yorks.
Yeah.
Oh, how
That's a
was
nice
that?
Cincinnati
Did you like?
thing to
Did you
do.
like to mix it with the coffee?
Yeah, the coolness of the Yorks and the heat of the coffee for me is a
Sure. Sure.
is a powerful combination.
Underrated.
Gladdy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing? Welcome
Oh, man.
home. Are you in Brooklyn or are you in Manhattan?
I'm in Brooklyn now. I'm outside of Woodwork. I'm here with a bunch of
Shut the fuck
people
up. You're
watching
at
this
Woodwork?
ball game.
Woodwork is
Yeah, I
now, to me, the best bar in the world.
It's pretty good.
It's so good.
I did about 24 hours of travel last night, and then I got into Newark last night at 12:30 and watched the last 2 innings of the Giants game when Matt Cain pitched that perfect game.
Oh, you got to see that.
Oh, yeah.
You saw the last 2 innings of the Matt King.
John, do you have any questions for
That's
Brandon?
beautiful.
For
'Cause-
Brandon.
Yeah, because Brandon
Yeah.
can't hear you.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have a
really?
pair
I
of
heard
headphones
Brandon
on.
before.
We only have 2 sets of headphones here.
Well, that's okay.
Nice.
It's very it's very makeshift, but we
This
try.
is Hauser.
This is
So,
this is me.
Brandon, how
I mean,
was the
it-
establishment? How was the establishment that you read at tonight?
How is the establishment that you read at? What were your impressions? Of
Tonight
Circle
or
A.
last night? Oh, Circle
Tonight,
A.
yeah.
Oh, it couldn't have been better.
Yeah, it's a really great place, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
Nice.
And, you know, again, it's a really wonderful moment reading this poem called Star Wars, where I talk
yeah.
about Crass and like late 70s punk. Because Circle A is this incredible sort of punk repository
It is.
of, we said, people were
Moment
saying
of
nostalgia
serendipity.
before, but rather it's actually homage and a real preservation of punk energy. And the bar could not have been better.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
I love that place.
Yeah, and the
That
proprietors.
Ramones poster is pretty
Oh,
freaking
God,
awesome.
are you
Coolest
fucking kidding me?
girl.
Yeah.
She was the coolest person. Indeed.
Indeed.
Is the coolest person.
Yeah,
Besides
yeah.
Montana at Cafe Corazon today, she was the second coolest person we met
there
in
was
Milwaukee
this person.
today.
There was this person.
A whole lineup of cool people in
Yeah.
Milwaukee, in other words.
Yeah, we've
Nice.
met a number of extraordinary people.
Have you ever been to Milwaukee, John?
Me, I have. I was gonna
You
say,
have?
are y'all gonna go to the Blackbird and like do a repeat performance?
That's a little far away. That's like all the way on the other side of town. I might go to Blackbird and do a repeat performance of
Blackbird singing
some
in the
kind
dead
of
of
unintentional
night.
performance that I did there in the past that involves falling down or something.
I know you're fine,
But,
but are you against ambition?
Man, Mike, you and Coletti kind of have the same mustache.
Really?
Did you hear that
Yeah.
at all, John?
Do you think
Oh,
our
yeah, I heard
mustaches
that.
are similar? I think I can
Absolutely,
show that.
thick and burly. Although I like kind of
Show the
trimmed
people
mine
at
today.
home that. It's a great mustache. And
It's a
Yeah.
great mustache. It's a
Fabulous.
Trotskyan.
yeah, exactly.
Do you have any mustache grooming tips for me, John? I'm kind of a novice at this.
I use nose clipping hairs for the hard to get places. And then
Okay.
usually I use and then the hair clippers just get it over in a minute, you know, with the side swipe.
Do you know of anything that you can like put on facial hair to make it like less coarse? Like if you want to get like
Skazer cream.
like make out with somebody or like has that ever been a
Shave.
problem or
What I do
Skazer
is
gel.
I like to get conditioner, like the
Conditioner,
Dolphin
okay.
conditioner. Yeah, and just
Oh
not
no, you
wash
gotta
it out.
condition the mustache, man.
you have to
And you
condition?
don't-
Okay,
and you don't wash it
Brandon
out.
seconds that.
I mean, if you
You
want the
don't
other
wash it
person's
out.
lips to taste your lips so softly,
Oh my
It's
god.
getting real now, guys. It's 6 points. 6 points.
Okay.
7:40 to go.
10:40 to go on the 4th. Okay.
6 points,
Yeah.
man.
Ten-
the Thunder are
Mike,
gonna get
Mike,
this
you
one.
know you got to bring him to the Blackbird.
Let's hang up with John. And,
Hang up with me.
He
All
can
right.
send us some
Bye,
updates via
guys.
text.
Would you call us back in about
Yeah.
the last minute of the game and like give us
Exactly.
another update, John?
That'd be wonderful.
I'd love to.
Okay, thank
I love
you
you,
so much
buddy.
for calling,
Okay,
John.
Yeah, John,
And
love you,
I love
man.
you. All right.
Skazers forever, haters
Goodbye.
forever.
Rosity out.
Yeah.
Bye.
You're the best. Okay, so
Well, I
that
can't
was-
believe that actually went off without a hitch. But I've never used the phone before. But
it was thrilling. But I mean, I heard not a word of it, but it sounded really good. But y'all, do you mind if I finish reading this poem or
No,
like read
please
this
do.
poem?
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Please do.
All right. Again, this poem is by David Larson. It's in his tremendous book, The Thorn. And I believe it's untitled. I'm going to start from the beginning. You know what? Fuck everyone except for me. A Dante figure. Fuck that other shit. Do you even know what it is? A gifted child couldn't take the bone from its mouth. I'm saying, I brought an icicle home, made the pillow wet, tore apart the pillow, refutation. It will be hard to be shown where the friend went, rarely straight down. Life has its culverts, and this is one streaming with feeling for them, a lot like hate. Picture hate's neighbor with the trash all over the lawn and all the shouting. I've had an inner earful of it lately. Oh, you'll take it, my man, you'll take it. But this pipe may be too hot for you. So let's say it was in the woods and Al was tweeting, fuck man, I was scared. When I asked, what did you get tired of? The chiding, said the shade, and I was like, me too. And I got to drink blood and see all the punishments and hear what they were there for. And this one guy, holy shit, he was so okay with what he'd done. As on a sheet of brass, it is embossed inside me. The look on his face quite replaced my own. And I got to meet Grover Cleveland. Anyway, some motherfucking study questions, such as what showed my course to be downward, and why me and not you, or were you as well? It ain't hard to tell. So close your eyes and hug your pillow. Come again. Listen to me. I was an icicle. God.
That's such an iconic piece of writing for me.
Oh,
Fucking
me too.
iconic piece of writing. I mean, as on a sheet of brass embossed inside of me.
Oh my God. I know.
It is. I mean,
I know. Exactly.
You know, yeah.
Exactly.
Would you like to read something, Dana?
Yeah, I'll read this poem called "An Audience" with Kylie Minogue. It's for Justin Chin. It's a poem by Kevin Killian, and I have the fondest memory of this poem. If I may be mistaken, but I think this appeared in Shampoo.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I remember. No. I feel like No, I do remember reading in Shampoo. I know it appeared in Shampoo. So, anyway, An Audience with Kylie Minogue for Justin Chin by Kevin Killian. The candy hearts, each one no bigger than a nail, spill out on Formica. Love me, text me, class act, email. Wow, they've changed since the days when I loved you. Got love, says this one, hot yellow dot on a table of faint gray. Years amore, something ethnic as I dolled myself up, hard at my throat, all itchy and fevered for my audience with Kylie. Thinking quick, like 2 triggers on 2 guns on each finger of the hands of Callie. John Woo double bill baby, thinking like history, screwed in lightning, I grab a few hearts. Be Mine and Candy Girl and thrust them into my open palms like blinky stigmatas. Then I patted the screen and the doctors pulled back the linen curtain. My boo, first kiss, dear one. Hello, I cry out. Is anyone there? My heart is beating faster and work is a disaster. Nothing changed since the day in which I turned against you and my little thing got hard and ran back at me. Shotgun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, can anyone call in and tell me if I'm wrong or even confirm that was in Shampoo, right? I feel like I can see the
The
poem
number
so
is
vividly
the number
against.
is 414-935-2951.
I can see the poem so vividly against those beautiful backgrounds that Dell's always
That's
used in
right.
Shampoo with those
That's
big
right.
bright colors. I can
That's
remember
right.
reading it at work and I
Yeah.
remember reading it a million times.
Right. Right.
And isn't it weird?
Put in my pocket like Blinky Stigmatas.
Blinky Stigmatas.
Yeah. Thank
I
you,
know.
Kevin.
I
Thank you,
know.
Kevin. I love you, man.
Yeah, for the whole
I'm so grateful
for the
you.
whole universe of
Yeah.
feeling
That's right.
that
No.
I'm simply just elaborating
right.
out of, But he gave a whole language.
I don't know. I just want to like send a shout out to the listeners of Hauser that we should all just share in our common gratitude for the person of Kevin Killian and his writing.
Well,
Yeah, you know,
absolutely.
I just want to give that.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Could I ask you guys a few questions about your own writing?
Sure.
I wanted to talk about. I guess that this might be more for Brandon, but the idea of correspondences and corresponding. You read a couple of translations of correspondences by Baudelaire tonight, and so I guess I'm wondering how it affects your thinking about poetry. The idea of correspondences in the sense that we know it, of being in touch with poets who are close and then farther away and around the
Right.
world, and also the idea of correspondences within that text of the kind of mystical or kind of somatic power of like object relations. How did you how what's your thinking on that?
Well, we both can talk about this eventually. I mean, one thing to say is that the second thing you said is the Baudelairean sense of correspondence, right? The natural, the ideal,
Yeah.
corresponding in some sort of like poetic system. For me, those poems, I mean, I don't know French, right? So the only meaning of the word correspondance is correspondence. And, you know, also it's good to know that when you get out of the plane at Charles de Gaulle, the word for exit, like exit this terminal, is correspondence.
Oh, is it really?
Correspondence,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
meaning like
Oh, wow.
get your next plane or whatever, you know, a connection, right? But all of those poems were written for people, and I did improvised translations of the Baudelaire poem on paper, hand wrote them, and mailed them to people who I love.
Yeah.
About 14 of them, you know.
I remember so vividly that the day I received the one you wrote for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, so the literal take, or the take I had to take because I don't know French about correspondence, was literalized in the translation, and all those poems are written for people and sent to people. And this is where I think it really, really corresponds to what something we've talked so much about.
Right.
Email being the fruit of so much writing.
Sure.
Reaching out, creating, being like the biggest coder reporter alive or something.
Sure.
You know,
The
something we
stimulus
talked
of
about.
writing and perhaps the fruit of writing and kind of a
With others,
reciprocal.
though. With others.
Uh-huh.
I mean, again, with others. And so translation, and I'll stop talking after this. Translation
That's okay.
is often thought of as like, because the translator is invisible, and so it's sort of like the presentation of, like, you read a translation of whoever, and it's like, oh, here's this person's writing. How nice. It's in English. Wonderful. But in fact, that's a collaboration. And in fact, that's a correspondence between two people. At least two people.
Kind of in translating Catullus, kind of went directly at that idea of the invisibility of the translator, and you kind of went through it and then back through it. And what was the process like of writing that book? Like, I mean.
Well, I mean, what I'm interested in doing in those works of translation is making a record of my own reading. So,
Your own
whatever
reading of
happens
the
to me-
work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whatever
Okay.
happens to me happens in the book, and that's
Yeah.
just how it is.
Yeah.
And that hopefully turns out to be a compelling and troubled story.
So like not putting yourself in a soundproof room and like zeroing in on the text and
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
But I mean,
like
again,
allowing
this-
all this other stuff.
And again, I think this will go back to something about correspondence in both of our works. I mean, one of my favorite parts of that Catullus thing is like that I got to like have 12 people write the poems. You know, so 12 people wrote poems, including
Sure.
Dana,
Mhm.
wrote poems in that book. And that's like, I mean, finally, that's the same thing as me translating it. It's just like, you know, they did it, not me, which is good. But
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
Yeah. Anyway,
I do.
but could you talk about correspondence and reaching out and
Sure. I think that not my initial, but the way in which it came to offer something to my own writing was that I realized at one point that the writing I was doing with you over email, with Stephanie over email, with a number of people over email, was more compelling to me and indeed more poetic than my own poetry. So I recognized that I was often responding to a set of formal demands in poetry that were limiting what might become available in my writing.
previous to this realization of what these
Yeah, and
correspondences
I don't mean to
and sort of
suggest there's a
allowing
pure
that-
epiphany. There were a number of other that reinforced this idea, but nonetheless, I did have a sense that the things I was writing to you in email, the things I was writing to Stephanie in emails, other people, the writing I was doing in that space was more interesting than my
Yeah.
lineated verse. And I recognized a way in which I could expand that and make works out of it.
Right.
And there was all this aesthetic precedent for that in Bruce Boone, in Bob, in Dodie, and Kevin,
Yeah.
in this lineage of new narrative, in a book like
I wanted to ask you about the influence or the impact or the kind of relation that you have to new narrative
right.
work. Like, could you talk a little about what you've taken from spending time with those works of Bruce Boone and
Sure.
these types of people?
Sure. I mean, I think it's related to what I was just describing. I mean, when you ask what I've taken from it, I would say almost everything. You know,
Yeah.
that it is it's the ultimate example for me, or the ultimate initializing example of what I might think to do in writing. And I think that there's a way in which that writing is not unconnected to the other writing that has impacted my writing the most significantly, Notley.
Yeah.
You know, being the core, the other sort of core point of departure in my writing. But this becomes a bifurcation that's not sufficient or not entirely exact. But nonetheless, what I did recognize was that there was a relationship between the sense of liberation I had in the writing I was doing in my email and the aestheticized vision of something like that, approximately like that in new narrative, that offered a way of writing that I hadn't quite considered.
Do you lift stuff directly from emails?
Roughly. So there've been seeds of paragraphs, you know, seeds of parts that I have sketched out initially in email that I've then refined and expanded.
Okay.
And if the writing is there, I would absolutely do that. But it's probably been pretty infrequent. That's not from a lack of willingness. That's just from a lack of it's just a little different. But it's quite close often. The sound and the look of it is quite close. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I'd add, and that's I mean, I've had the same sort of overwhelming feeling encountering these works, is that what New Narrative has done for me is it's shown me how the contingencies of everyday life, the contingencies of care in everyday life, can be political, and are political all the time, right? And this is what
and
the
how
great,
in our
thing-
present situation they are depoliticized. It's like people usually say, let's drop all the politics and just be nice to each other. But it's like kindness is political. And,
kindness is political, but so is gossip, and everything is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everything is. And so, what that writing has done for me is sublimate that in this. It looks like we're getting a call.
We answer the phone?
Yeah.
Call.
Hello, you're on Hauser.
Yeah, it's a 3-point game with a minute 30 to go.
3-point game with a minute 30 to go.
Yeah. I guess I should just get off, but I thought I'd call in.
Okay.
The heater's still up?
Heater up.
Heater's still on.
3-point game. Momentum Thunder. Bye.
Okay, call us back.
Bye.
Thank you. I just have to say thank you, John Coletti,
Yeah,
for
thank you,
updating
Coletti.
on this.
Yeah.
It's very important.
That was John Coletti with an update on the Heat Thunder Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Would each of you share a couple NBA Finals memories with me? I'm assuming you both have a long relationship with watching basketball.
Yeah. The year that...
Don't want to shift gears too abruptly.
No. No, the one that sticks out most vividly is being at Jeff's parents' house the year that Jordan had the flu in Game 6.
Oh. I was
against
working
Utah.
at McDonald's on that night. I
Yeah,
remember
that's
that.
not
I
true.
remember that night really vividly. That's the Heat. That's the NBA
Yeah.
Finals night that sticks out most vividly. For me, you know, the NBA Final nights are memorable.
Were you guys Bulls fans? Were you Jordan fans?
You know, yeah, of course. It was. Again,
hated the Bulls.
It's a little like LeBron. Like being a fan or a
hated
non-fan is kind of a
Jordan's.
non-choice when someone is that extraordinary. You're just,
Right.
Yeah.
as Nike says,
you kind of.
you're a witness.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
honestly,
are.
you're just witnessing something really amazing, and it's a story that you're watching. And when Jordan succeeded, that was impressive. Also, if Jordan had failed, it would continue to be impressive because Jordan was a miracle in the world,
That's right.
and LeBron is a miracle in the world.
Absolutely.
So the ways in which they fail or succeed matter, but you're kind of just witness to something so
looking for something seeming to be dangerous, and I wonder if you could talk about the presence of that in your writing, or
I think what I meant in that instance, in that moment of writing that, was that the idea of life had been had in that moment and has and continues to be so subsumed under a regime of economic logic. No. Is that okay like this?
okay,
Yeah. That life has been so entirely subsumed under a regime of economic logic that it ceases to be itself. And yet we continue to talk about it. So, it seems the more we talk about it, it only makes it worse to live without it.
This can't be life.
Yeah, and so, it's the classic utopian conversation. Not classic, but it's the utopian conversation that's often held between the people I love the most. It's something we often end up talking about. And I recognized that the romantic wish that was expressed in that song mirrored a kind of utopian desire that was often being expressed in social situations I encountered in the poetry world. And so that's why that lyric shows up there.
Right, and also, I mean, this is also why This Can't Be Life is a perfect analog, as Mike suggested.
And it belongs to the same universe.
Because there's an ambiguity about the phrase, which is, on one hand, this can't be life, i.e.,
I will not allow this to be life.
It's
no, it's just it's despairing, right?
Right.
Like,
This is not adequate.
This
cannot be what life is.
It actually cannot be.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, life is refused by the terms in which we're living.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well,
so
it's also like, this is so wonderful that it can't even be mine. And it's like that, and that doubleness is so present in James' work, right?
Yeah.
Where it's
I think the phrase has so many valences.
It does, so many. Yeah.
Can I ask
also
you guys a potentially controversial question? I mean,
wouldn't it be nice if we were older?
Does poetry fall short of taking account of that? I mean, how do we really take account of that? We can speak truth to power and the forces that act upon us, but as Rod Smith said on the show last week, they're not listening, but we can connect to each other. But then I use that word, and I use that word. Others don't use that word. But then, like, connect, it turns into connectivity, and
which is an entirely
get a really good cell phone plan
monetized
and find out how it's like this whole system of turnstiles. It's like I just see Facebook as like all these turnstiles and all these like credit card swiping places, and it's like, how do we establish like a radical sociability that becomes strong to outlast the inevitable demise of all that stuff.
Well, it's like, you think capitalists are stupid? Like, I mean, obviously they're like
quite the opposite.
Yeah, it's like, obviously, like, the very things that we treasure the most are, of course, going to be the objects of capital predatoriness. Like, obviously, right? I mean,
obviously.
So, I mean, that being said,
I would suggest what I would suggest is just because certain modes of sociality can be monetized does not mean that they're not radical. Anything can come under a regime of monetization and be made to mean that way. It doesn't mean that its beauty and power is useless. Just because it has been
really
just because it has come to have a life in a system of marketing and monetization.
Well, right, and this is like Jamesonian philosophy, right?
Sure.
Like it's not just practice, but the imagination that's been like co-opted by capital. But I mean, there's no that does not necessarily lead to a total cynicism or nihilism, right? Like,
absolutely not.
Right? I mean, like, given that capitalism is going to go after all of these parts of our being,
it doesn't
like. Right.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to say it doesn't matter, by which I mean, of course it matters. It just does not. It just does not mean the destruction of the life of poetry, or art, or sociality, just because those things have been conscripted and monetized.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that they're not still the source of a radical overcoming of a world that we hate. Now, it doesn't mean that you can just just because you can just like enjoy them and hope that will constitute an overcoming. It doesn't mean that.
Poetry's kind of become like a question
of
of time theft, because so many poets work full-time jobs, and it's like, how do you write in between and during
Sure.
and over and around all that? And I was thinking with Anselm's text, "Have a Good One," which
Sure.
you published on Cypress, how the structure of the poems, they reminded me of these kind of life forms that are kind of like in between all these kind of boxes, or kind of like on the page, and it made me think about how I think like poetry in the best way is kind of like a cockroach. Like it can survive and thrive
would
under like
really be sympathetic
any
to that,
conditions. You know, it can. But yeah, it seems like it's become a question of time theft. And could you talk a little bit, Brandon, about the thing that we were talking about, that you and Allie organized, the Labor Day thing, as we were referring to it today?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Just to say, and in full disclosure, Allie and I worked with Suzanne Stein, David Brazil, and Sarah Larson. And the five of us organized a conference 2 years ago.
Okay.
Around Labor Day, where we invited poets to talk about their day jobs. Poets, people who identified as poets, who wanted to talk about what they did for money. And since then, there's been a couple developments. One is this blog, which is the Poetic Labor Project, which has hosted dozens of texts from writers all over the United States and internationally to talk about what they do. So that's what we've been up to, right?
Do you have like and I don't know, maybe somebody from your job, your boss could be listening or something, but
right.
Do you like write while on the job? Would you say that much of your work like
Is your
might
boss
be considered time theft? And is your boss
The answer is no. No and no. No, but I mean, actually, it's a good question. And like a couple people who, you know, the talks that were given that day, which they were given at a nonprofit art space in Oakland over Labor Day weekend. And then there was this kind of like drive for archiving or preserving these spaces. And a couple people, including me actually, were like, this piece can't be published on the internet. Partly because like my particular engagement with Semio Capital is such that when I apply for a job, the next job I apply for, the first thing someone's going to do is Google me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the
Totally.
right? And one of the first things that's going to happen is they're going to see this talk I give where I'm like, man, I go to work and I do nothing.
Fuck off, constantly.
I do nothing. Like
I'm
I
a
write
wage
Poetry,
slave,
and write
right?
email and shit. Yeah.
right. I you know,
I pay
write,
you to write email
Exactly.
to dude in Cincinnati. And
Exactly.
It's like that, yeah.
Exactly. Which this is probably less risky because like no
Ain't nobody
boss
listening to this shit.
look, no boss I'll ever have has made it this far. They quit at Coletti.
Yeah, I know.
Right. But like
Keisha smoking on Keisha.
Keisha smoking on Keisha, right? But just to say that for other of us, I mean, truly though, that piece could not be in the internet because it would actually jeopardize this very precarious relationship with Semio Capital. I mean, if a future employer read this piece that I wrote that was like, I don't do anything, I fucking write poetry, man, I would not even get a fucking interview. I'd be fucked.
You would be fucked.
I'd be super fucked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the reality of, and it was important, I guess, and we can transition from here, but the terror of the precarity is such that, like, I mean, exposing your authentic self in public, especially on the internet,
It's impractical.
it's sabotage.
Yeah.
It's self-sabotage.
Yeah.
You know, and the other people who objected to having
wow.
their pieces published objected for the exact same reasons. They were like, you know, this cannot be accessible to anyone who can Google my name.
Yeah.
You know? So
Someone asked me about my job. A person named Andrew Lowen, who writes for a magazine called Poetry Sapien, and he's a friend of my friend Weldon Gardner Hunter, a Canadian poet. And he asked me a question about my job, and I said I have to ask you to strike this question, and I can't answer it because
Right.
the company that I work for is so paranoid, not only about confidentiality, but about their intellectual rights or their intellectual property for their technology, and it's but I mean, how do you exist outside of that if
There is
the
no
internet
outside of that.
is
Right.
just so bespoiled? I mean, how do you cultivate this like fugitive community through which we can? Because I don't want to go back to the days of like, oh, it was nice knowing you, Dana Ward and Brandon Brown, but I'm gonna have to move in with this like where they use horse and buggies and we all grow our own food. And I mean, we're obviously not going to go back to some agrarian society, but like, how do we? I mean, I don't know. That's not even a question, really. But how do you maintain like a fugitive poetry community?
Mice and horse better scurry.
Man, so we have 8 minutes left, so we got to get an update on this game.
Well, it's up to him to call us, and
Well, I have
you
a little-
guys, if
I have a space
you
for
were,
him.
But I
Okay.
mean, what do you think about? I mean,
Where are we going after this? Have we decided?
yeah, I mean, this to all the listeners out there, Milwaukee is such a beautiful place, and it's one of the greatest places to read poetry in the world.
It is.
It is fabulous.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna have a really good night. I wish you all were here.
Me too.
We're gonna miss you, but Mike, what do you think about? Could we read a couple other poems before we? Close?
Yeah, I was thinking that might be a
That
nice
would be
way
nice.
to
I would
close
like
things
that.
out. And
Yeah.
but if John calls, that's like an
Oh, no.
acceptable interruption.
Absolutely, because we
Okay.
have to know what
Absolutely.
happens.
And
in
right
the-
now it is Heat 100,
Oh, Dana's got that
Thunder
iPhone.
96.
as the final.
Final.
Is
Oh,
that-
it is
oh,
a final.
it's a
Pardon
final.
me, I misread. It is a final.
Okay.
Well, then we don't have to worry about
Miami's
calling.
won. The series is tied at 1-1.
1-1.
So
That's right.
hopefully we're gonna go 7 games. Hopefully we'll have a game 7.
Well, I really
Next
hope so,
game's
too.
in Oklahoma City.
No,
next game's
These two have
Miami.
been in
So
Oklahoma
it's
City.
2
Oh,
3.
these-
It's
you're
2
right,
3
you're
2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss this game on Sunday too. So anybody listening out there who wants to text me on Sunday night while I'm on a plane about the score, I'd really appreciate that.
Surrey with the fringe on top. What do you got? Yeah.
Would you want to read something from Sherwood Forest? Because I don't think we're going to get to we're going to be able to get to it, but I wanted to ask you about your review of that book. I was
Oh,
very
yeah.
That was an awesome
taken
review.
with a lot
So
of
good. Yeah.
a lot of what you said in there, especially about kind of fugitive and outside the law, kind of as it connects.
Well, I mean, Sherwood Forest and Camille Roy's writing in general has meant so much to me.
Hmm.
I mean, I think she's an extraordinary writer.
Cold Heaven
Absolutely.
is such an amazing book.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's a badass.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
She's incredible. This book was monumental. It transformed a sort of not just a new narrative, but a post-Spicerian and a contemporary community take on everything, really. But yeah, I would love to read the first poem in this book. Is that good with you, Dana? Should I go?
Please,
should I read
please
this?
do. I love that poem.
And so the poem is by Camille Roy, and it's called My Play. You are dead. Imagine it. So I should speak as one possessed, grim and miraculous. Your word startles the process, killer. The unborn occupy the dead like some relationships. Still, the appalling, almost feverish discomfort we cause each other. This is our science story, which I place in the safe deposit box of your butch heart. Our audience arrives as voyeurs with a wish, a natural desire to be transformed into masochists. Not because they want to be overwhelmed by suffering. Quite the contrary. They seek an actual possibility, not an actualized one. Yet they suffer from the fact that the body is effeminate, that the asshole is speaking. This isn't shit, it's poetry. Shit enters into it only as an image. My rather elastic neck droops, hips flatten, skeleton begins its grin. But it has a bad smell, this play, the aroma of nothing happening. Then I become aware of the theatrical quality of sex shows, porn, politics. The show is everywhere. Theater is a quality, not a place. I want to write Eileen, but I'm feeling guilty. I'm too high. I fold my muscles into wads and sleep soundlessly. I can't remember my dreams. They crumble a soft cake. A picnic with Carla. She brings rosemary bread and surprising pistachios. She reads to me about utopias. So touched and happy, I float right up into the sky.
I love that poem so much.
My God.
I love that poem.
Do you want to read something, Dana?
Yeah, I'm going to read a poem by a poet from Cincinnati, a woman named Yvette Nepper. And my friend Paul Kors and I published this book of hers called 26 Poems for Grown-Up and Children. I'm going to read a poem of hers. I think this might be a nice way to close.
Is that a Cypress book?
It's not. It's actually from this new press that Paul and I started called Perfect Lovers. Yeah.
I forgot to mention that.
It's
I'm
fine.
so
No, it's
sorry.
fine. But I would like to read this poem of hers.
Please do.
I love her writing so much, and so I just want to read this poem. So this is by Yvette Nepper. It is called Human Being Part 1. Your heart is a soft cannon. Your body a slow number somewhere between advertising and art. And something made you, something made you, something made you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Do you guys have, I think we're just about done. Thanks so much
Thanks, Mike.
for coming
It's
on the
good.
show.
Go Thunder.
Yeah.
For coming
it's-
to Milwaukee.
It's been the best time ever.
Oh, we've been having so much fun. You know.
Mhm. And hi, John Coletti. We
Hi,
love
John.
you.
We love
Hi,
you so
John.
much.
And hi, Kevin Durant. Hi, Russell Westbrook. Like James Harden.
Yeah. Hi,
Get it
everybody.
together.
Hi, Nazi Mohammed.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah.
Get it together and win
Yeah.
this series for us.
Yeah.
We need you.
All right.
It's for the week.
I love
It's
you.
for-
Milwaukee is my favorite city in the
It's
world.
for the week.
I love it here so much.
Really?
So. It's my favorite Midwestern city.
It is wonderful
By a long
here.
shot. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Peace.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
Everybody for listening.